the time management side runs very much parallel to the happiness side, because in the striver department, oftentimes we're trying to pack in too many things at the same time. So how does one try to do all the things and still have some time to be instead of just do? Well, howdy, welcome to the show. We decided to take things on the road today, and part of that is because I wanted to be a little bit more inspired, and I want to be inspired because I've got something that I want to talk about, I've been thinking about for a long time. Last year, I had the opportunity to go to a seminar at the Modern Elder Academy. It's a really neat program. They have a campus down in Baja, they've got a campus in Santa Fe, and I got to go to one put on by Arthur Brooks, who wrote a book called Strength is Strength, which I found really just fascinating. And part of the reason I found it fascinating was because I think it appealed to people in our demographic. And when I say demographic, if you're dialing into this show, there's a reasonable chance that you are a striver of some sort, meaning you're wired to work super hard. You're wired to want to achieve goals. You want to win. That's probably why you found yourself going down this channel. The benefit of being a striver is that you can get a ton of shit done. The downside is that being wired to be a striver oftentimes means that you're always looking for the next thing, thinking that that thing is going to make you happy. And then you find out that it doesn't. So you keep going for the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And along the way, at a certain point, we start realizing that it's not the things that we're accomplishing that make us happy, but we have this illusion that's going to be the case. For some of us, we end up down the path of addiction. Like I personally used alcohol to try and numb that sense. And so one of the things I found so fascinating about the Arthur Brooks material is it focused on happiness. And how can we, who are wired to strive, still succeed in the striving department and start setting aside some of the issues that make it very hard for us to be happy. So that's what we're going to be talking about. It's not going to be just Arthur Brooks material. Greg McKeown, Oliver Burkeman, Cal Newport, and kind of unpack who these people are and see how this material comes together. So hope you enjoy joining me on this journey. So who are the people that I referenced? Oliver Burkeman wrote a wonderful piece called 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. Cal Newport wrote Digital Minimalism and a number of other things. Jim Collins has written a number of business books, but more recently, he just did one, I won't get the title quite right, but How to Live a Life. Arthur Brooks, Strength is Strength, and a number of other books, including a recent one, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. The reason I'm identifying these is all of these are great. Not everyone has the opportunity to get through all of them. And each has different things to lend as one is trying to figure out one's path forward. And I feel that the time management side runs very much parallel to the happiness side. Because in the striver department, oftentimes we're trying to pack in too many things at the same time. So how does one try to do all the things and still have some time to be instead of just do? And I think that is one of the challenges that we face, which is there's this constant pressure to perform, to do, instead of be. And on the happiness side, it's really hard to be happy when all the time is spent doing. So let's unpack that a little bit in terms of happiness. And a lot of this research comes from Arthur Brooks, and I would highly recommend picking up a copy of Strength to Strength. That's the book that I've found to be really the most helpful for me on the happiness science and on some of the things that we learn about ourselves in terms of our intelligence and how we perform at an early age versus a later stage in life. So happiness has three components. There's satisfaction, which is joy from the struggle. There's enjoyment, which is pleasure plus people plus memory. And there's meaning, which is coherence, purpose, and significance. So what do those three pieces mean? The satisfaction side, and this is, I think, where it's easiest for those of us strivers to land. We're satisfied when we've done something hard. So right now I have the pleasure of going up a set of stairs in San Francisco. It's a nice, beautiful ridgeline, which is not too far from our house. I love doing hard things. I love going up hills. I love taking on challenges with cases. There's a satisfaction when you accomplish that thing, even in the moment of doing the thing when it is hard. So when you do those things, that's why strivers tend to follow that bit for satisfaction. It's easy for us to do that piece. Then enjoyment, that's, I tend to summarize that as friends and family. It can also include, coworkers too. But it's the idea that I'm doing something with someone that is giving me some sense of joy. I'm walking with my daughter, or getting to have a meal with my spouse, or getting to go for a bike ride with a friend. These build memories, these build stories for us. The meaning is also fairly easy for us to identify, harder for us, I think, to figure out how that fits in. So coherence and purpose, the idea that we're doing something that has some significance. So helping out our clients, that seems very straightforward. It's when things start feeling rote or repetitive, or like one is not really serving a significant purpose, that one starts having some challenges on that side of things. So happiness also has some interesting components that we might not think about. So happiness is 50% genetic, which means if you happen to have the misfortune of coming from a genetic line where there's a little bit more sadness in your life, there may be more work that one has to do. 25% of happiness comes from circumstance, and 25% comes from habit. So you have a real control over certain elements of it. So how do you control and influence those pieces in terms of keeping you happy? So as we look at another component of happiness, we also want to look at satisfaction. And satisfaction is it's odd that you can think of satisfaction as an equation, but you can. And on that front, it's taking your haves and making sure that your wants don't greatly exceed your haves. This is easy to do with an example. If you want more money, nicer cars, bigger house, more, but you don't have them, it can be very challenging and one can feel very dissatisfied. If it is far easier to reduce your wants than it is to increase your haves. So finding a sense of balance in I am satisfied with what I have is a great way to be able to very easily achieve more happiness. That's easier said than done. And the reason I say it's easier said than done is particularly in this area of social media where people are doing their best to demonstrate the greatest life possible. You can get this sense that everyone's lives are better than yours. They have nicer cars, they have nicer times, they have nicer travel. And so it can be really hard to just kind of let that go. And an easy way, by the way, is to reduce your amount of time spent scrolling on social media and be more present in places like nature. But finish watching this first. Another piece to unpack here is the difference between pleasure and enjoyment. And pleasure is can sometimes be described as the hedonic treadmill. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of pleasure, but a challenge on the pleasure side is that as you seek pleasure after pleasure after pleasure, it can result in just wanting more. And so one needs to be very cautious on that side to make sure that one is not developing addiction paths. Again, that dopamine receptor, it feels good, so I'll do more. It feels good, so I'll do more. And you keep resetting that dopamine level, so you keep having to bring in more to feel you're getting pleasure. So enjoyment is different. It's a prefrontal cortex piece that involves people and memories. So that's where you're going to want to spend more time in terms of the enjoyment side. And it's being with people and it's having experiences. And those are the types of things that are going to make you happy. So one other piece that is really interesting to think about is there's both positive elements and negative elements when one is dealing with happiness. So, and here's where I find exercise really interesting. I always thought that if I wasn't feeling great, going out for a walk or a bike ride was something that made me happy. And what I've learned, again, through Arthur Brooks' work, is that it's not that it's making you happy. Exercise makes you less sad. So, and there are two different elements. There are things that can make you happy. There are things that can make you less sad. Both are important. And for those who are curious, there's a really interesting test at Arthur Brooks' site, the positive and negative affect scale. You can check and see kind of where you fall on that to see whether you're somebody who needs to deal with your negativity or whether you're somebody who that's less of an issue and you have the opportunity to deal with your positivity more. For those who need to deal with their negativity, that'd be me, and a lot of us strivers, by the way, a great way to do that is exercise, and exercise early. So I've found that doing something at the beginning of the day is a great way for me to feel just cleaned out and approaching the day without much negativity. I love doing weights. They say weights are a really good way to deal with negativity. That yoga is a good way of dealing with the anxiety side of things. Obviously, cardio is another, just anything that kind of spins out that piece and gets you ready to go again. So, and a lot of the things that we're going to talk about here are no surprise, not particularly novel, and kind of the broccoli of life in certain respects. Same vein is journaling. And that is just a way to kind of get the things that are going on in that striver mindset that are clawing at you a bit to prevent your focus. So those are great ways to start out your day. A lot of people end up doing long recitations of their morning routine. And here's where perfect can be the enemy of good. If you listen to a lot of people about morning routines and you go through kind of the checklist of all the things, if you add up all the time that people spend doing their morning routines, I don't know how they get the morning routines done before the evening. And so where I'm going with that, if there are tools that you find that work for you, don't follow somebody else's checklist. For years, I worried about being present for the family in the morning, and I did not exercise in the morning. What I found is I'm much better getting up super early, getting some exercise in, and then being around for a little bit to be around the family, rather than not doing that and being a jerk in the morning. So, but it took me a long time to kind of settle in to figure out what worked for me. It's figuring out what works for you so that you can do your best focus. Thank you for joining me on this outing. There's a lot to talk about on this subject. I mean, as you can tell from all the different books that have been written on it, all the different people who talk about it, there's more that I want to go into related to this. And so I look forward to having a second episode and going through this piece. If you have any feedback, this is an area that is near and dear to my heart, and an area where I, as a striver, I'm constantly trying to improve. So if you have feedback, please email us at podcast@coopers.law, leave a comment, leave feedback. If you find this helpful, please feel free to share an episode with a friend or leave us a 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. And to all of you doing justice out there, happy hunting.